This is Heroine Addiction, presented by That Time I Got Reincarnated in the Same World as an Anime Podcaster, where two guys talk about romance manhwa. I'm Isekai Sensei Sama, aka Brad, and I'm joined as always by Bento Baggins, aka Ben.
Who is fighting with his cat who just wants to headbutt this mic like it owes him money. Okay.
So, today we are going to be talking about Secret Lady.
Secret Lady. What was meant to be the Halloween thing, but I really dropped the ball on that.
Well, I think we all, if anybody actually follows Ben, words about books and all that, just how busy horror bullshit month can be. So we all understand. But we're here now, and to kick us off here, I will read the summary.
Ooh.
Lady Rosentine Arzen was born with the ability to see ghosts, an offense punishable by death under imperial law, and something which threatens to ruin her family. So when Rosentine learns of a plot to poison the Imperials, she goes undercover as a vagabond sorcerer to save Prince Chartres Cartezan, who promises to protect her family should she solve the mystery. But who would want to harm the prince? The palace teems with danger, but it's Rosentine's own secret that could prove fatal to her. So yeah, this is one. So I think it was the last episode we started to pick these a little bit differently, not just all willy-nilly. This was one, I think I had this at the top slot, the one I thought that you would get into the most, because it's got a lot of different elements of things that I think you enjoy.
The occult, the politics, the romance. So I gotta say, right off the bat, where does this rank for you, do you think?
Well, not to spoil it, but it's pretty high.
Okay. I think this is probably my second favorite.
Okay.
And it is probably my favorite romance, surprisingly. I don't know if that's true for a lot of people, because the romance is kind of secondary. They spend a lot of time developing the palace intrigue.
I think the idea there is like all of the stuff going on gets them closer together.
Yeah.
Because you've got that, like, what do they call it? The Japanese really like this, the rope bridge syndrome, I think they call it, where
when you're just trapped with somebody.
Well, basically, when two people are in a very dangerous situation, they grow closer to each other. It's something that's come up in a couple different series that I read, where the one girl is like trying to get closer to the guy, so she engineers this situation so that they'll become closer. But I think it's along those lines. You get the danger going on, so they're in these dangerous situations, and so they're becoming closer and closer together.
So this is another. I assume all of these are probably going to involve a 20-something Korean woman who becomes reincarnated into a fantasy novel.
Pretty much. Hold on, I can pull up the list real quick and tell you if there's any outliers. Oh, actually, number 2 on the list is not an isekai. So, yeah. It is a reincarnation, though. Okay. Just not an isekai one.
The technicalities. Yeah, I think this was one where my first impression for, I want to say maybe the first 10 to 15 chapters was that this didn't need to be an isekai. I thought it was a bit just to get in the genre, get your foot in the door. But I did actually like that her past traumas started to inform her new existence. This has, I don't know how common this is in isekai, but one thing we always criticize, especially me and Kermit always criticize isekai for, is like a total lack of development. But in this one, she experienced the same sort, not quite like punishable by death ostracism, but definitely no one wants you around. It would be okay if you died ostracism.
Oh yeah, we should probably. I don't think we brought this up. So her ability to see ghosts is actually, I guess, linked to her soul because she had that
Yeah.
ability in her past life in South Korea.
Yeah. And so that caused her great pain. And she had to go through a whole childhood of telling people she sees ghosts, as any young kid would do if they could, and creeping everybody out and getting ostracized for it. And so now it makes sense that she has the same power in a new life, but this time she knows how to mask, which is, you could really unpack that as a whole theme for any kind of mental health.
Yeah.
But I liked that she develops it. And so the first stage is she knows how to mask. She's just like, I'm going to never tell anyone I have this ability. I won't make that mistake again. But where this goes in a direction of refreshing character development is that the ghosts she sees are all charmingly petty, gossipy bitches. This isn't like a Sixth Sense thing where
Yeah.
she just sees horrific murder monsters all over the place. She can see a demon or two. That does become a thing, but for the most part, the ghosts are just the ghosts of nobles who still enjoy being able to go everywhere and hear all the gossip, and they're very much interested in the stories of the living.
Mm-hmm.
And so from that, she can start building a sort of a rapport with these ghosts, and they tell her things. And that leads to her getting involved in this plot to kill the prince. And her ability to save him is largely dependent on her ability to make friends with the ghosts, like sort of come to understand and live with and accept her problem. I don't want to words about books this too much, but I'm sensing that the ghosts may represent something. I don't know how conscious the author was of this when they did it, but there is a real metaphor for mental health here. Like,
I think you're probably on the right track. It's not something that I've thought about a whole lot. Chapter 60 just came out recently, and it's pretty obvious that we're not like. I can't really tell where the end is going to be, but we're not at the end yet. So
No.
there's still a lot of unanswered things. But I like the fact that, yeah, while I can see the metaphor for mental health there, there's also the aspect of it where she is using that thing that was such a detriment to her in her past life as almost a superpower. So to go a little bit beyond the summary here, what she does when she learns about this plot is that she takes on a persona of a sorcerer called Rowan, and basically confronts the prince. I forget exactly how that is. I actually didn't go back and
she
reread
jumps
this
in
one.
front of his carriage.
Oh, that's right.
And says the magic words he hates. That he hates being called the golden one or the recipient of the golden blessing. He hates that.
And so she's hiding herself. So even though she's a noble, she infiltrates by becoming the maid of the prince. Not like
Well, there's no way for her to
secretly,
hide the fact that her powers are going to aid her in helping him.
right.
But she needs access to all the information he has. She needs to be able to talk to him. And she basically needs to be able to tell him something sorcery is how I know this.
Yeah.
And she can't do that as a noble. If she's a noble, if she links her real name to this, then she puts her family in danger. The prince will always have something he can hold over her head. So she wants to save him, but she doesn't know him, so she doesn't feel comfortable risking all that. And so she disguises herself.
Yeah. So the fact that she is like using this ability to talk to ghosts, like they'll go gather information for her. She'll listen to them just for any old kind of extra information, talk about history, things that happened in the past to like sort things out. There's sort of like this detective thing going on.
It reminded me very much of Ghost Whisperer. I don't know if you've ever seen that
No,
whole
I haven't.
show with Jennifer Love Hewitt, where she was, or was it Ghost Whisperer Medium or something like that? I forget what it was called, but yeah, you see ghosts and you solve crimes, and there's there's a lot of little side quest things, and I actually like that they did this. Is that the ghosts get some character development,
Yeah.
and the story, like you said, it's only on chapter 60, but it seems like they're going to go more in the direction of everything is connected, even the ghosts that are hanging around.
Yeah. Yeah. There was at the end of a chapter, it was like in the 40s, I think. They revealed that one of the ghosts that she has been becoming very familiar with, like one of her favorites, is actually like the original king.
Yeah.
And it's sort of shady. It's sort they hint at the fact that the innocent nature that he has as a ghost now in becoming friends with her is actually sort of like there's something nefarious there.
Yeah, I don't know how much you want to go into spoilers on that one.
Yeah, not a ton, because
Okay.
this is one I think people should definitely read, and it's one where I have to say, like, make sure that you push through the first, I'd say maybe 20 chapters. This one was sort of interesting for me because a lot of times I'll read a new series and within the first like 3 chapters or something I'll be like, this is a yes or a no. With this one, I don't remember exactly how many chapters it was, but for the first couple chapters, I was very confused. Like I could not tell what was going on. There were the mystery aspect of this series. They like really went heavy with at the beginning and didn't give you any information besides like, hey, she can talk to ghosts. And I was having a real hard time following it. But
Yeah.
there's a point. I like I said, I don't know exactly where it is, but there's a point where they like explained like one thing, and all of a sudden it just clicked for me and went,
Mhm.
oh, this is I see, and this is like here and the yeah.
Yeah, the hint I would give at that point is if it seems like the motivation is maybe weak, if it seems like things are just happening because they're supposed to happen and somebody's like reading the script, they're going somewhere with that. It's
That's
not bad writing.
that's a really good point to make because there are a lot of series that sort of just do things just because there's not
Yeah.
like a point to it, and you'll go like, what the heck was the character motivation there? Why would they make that decision? Why would they do that thing that doesn't make any sense? In this case, yeah, there's this underlying thing that's going on that's actually like really interesting, and when they reveal it, which I think was in the 50s, it wasn't too long ago that they
No,
revealed.
it was pretty recent. Yeah.
But when they revealed that, I was like, oh, and that was that. Oh, and that was that, and that, and it's just sort of like dominoes falling into place.
Yeah. Like I'm not going to say it is still one of these isekai romance comics. Like it's not going to be the most mind-blowing thing you've ever read,
Yeah,
but it is smarter than it needs to
yeah,
be honest. It definitely, the writing definitely elevates the material. And I know like all of these it's based on some kind of web novel or something. But this one, it definitely seems like the person writing this was very much interested in writing a story and not just writing a story hoping somebody would make a webcomic out of
yeah,
it. Which some of these are. Some of these are just webcomic bait.
yeah. I don't know if this one. I would assume that there was a light novel, but
I saw that there was like an original story by somebody. There was some credit there.
oh yeah, it does say original work. Let me see if. Okay, it is a web novel.
Okay.
Very highly rated web novel.
I haven't. I'm guessing the web novel has not been translated.
Not officially.
Okay. This is one of my struggles because I do not speak. Oh, I know how to count to 10 in Korean. That is literally it. I think I know how to say front kick and turn around and just enough to be yelled at in Taekwondo.
But yeah, so from looking at the just the general way they approached the plot lines and even the romance, the interactions between the prince and I sort of want to call her Rohan because she's Rohan for basically the whole time.
Well, and
Um,
I noticed there's an interesting thing going on with her characterization. So she's reborn in this world. She was a 26-year-old Korean woman when she died, I think. And she's reborn as this beautiful, blonde haired, blue eyed princess right out of a storybook. But then when she goes to disguise herself, the first thing she has to do is disguise her blonde hair, which I guess is rare in this world. And she does that by putting on a magically enchanted wig that is black hair. And in the flashbacks and in the disguise, she looks pretty much the same. I don't know if that's an intentional thing. I don't know if the web novel specifies that or this is a choice by the artist. But it seems like she kind of disguised herself as herself.
yeah, I can see that.
And that
But
was an interesting layer for me because I was trying to figure out this one has some complexity in that it deals with her family in this world. So she was born with all her memories, but she doesn't view these people as just like characters in a novel or something like some of the other ones we've read.
mhm.
The people who are her family, she genuinely considers to be her family and genuinely cares about. But I constantly find myself wondering, like, which is the real Rosentine? Is it
I,
the
I
disguise or the blonde or the.
I have the feeling that this is more of a I'm this person in this world, but I have memories of, instead
Yeah.
of the other way that they sometimes go, which is I'm this person from the old world and I'm now in this new world.
Yeah, I'm in the fake world. I'm in the
Yeah,
world of the story.
it comes down to like is the old you the real you or is the new you the real you? And I think in this case they're leaning more towards the new you is the real you.
Yeah. But I think it's interesting how when she's reborn initially, she's like, sweet, second chance, that's done, never going back. And then she disguises herself and she just so happens to look a little bit more like her old self.
Mm.
And she's also just so happening to embrace the powers she kept from her old life that tortured her, that she said she was going to reject. And so it's almost, I don't know. I see this recurring theme of like learning to love oneself. And of course, the fact that the prince, we're doing almost a fairy tale thing where the prince is falling in love with the disguise. And one thing that concerned me about this is I keep wondering, like, what's going to happen when it's all said and done? Is he going to be like, oh, thank God she's not this ugly duckling. She was actually this hot princess the whole time.
Well, except she's not ugly.
No,
even
no.
as
And that
in
would kill it for
disguise.
me. That would kill it for me.
But there is, even to that extent, there is some kind of like maybe magic thing going on that's drawing them together
Yeah.
without giving too much away. So we don't have explicit answers on that yet, but they did talk about some potential like magic that's going on that could be the reason that they are so drawn to each other. Like it seems to be drawn to each other in a unrealistic way at some points.
Yeah, there's definitely like any good fairy tale, it could be that, love conquers all, love saves the day. Could just be a generic, like, I don't mean to say generic in that I think if that does wind up being the theme of this one, I think it will be earned, where sometimes it is not in others. But like I said, the romance in this I buy more than the romance in anything else. I think one thing I like is that because it is an anime inspired story, they of course met when they were children, but they didn't really know each other. They didn't establish a relationship. They just met once, and that was like, oh, they're destined. But I like that she met him as an adult, and they didn't know each other beforehand. They don't, so she doesn't have any weird power over him. It's because my favorite one still is probably Author of My Own Destiny, but that is a grown woman meeting a 10-year-old boy. And there's a little bit of like power dynamic weirdness there.
But at least she recognized that.
Yes.
But yeah, I think the romance, a lot of it, yeah, like you said, it makes sense. It sort of flows and is realistic. There are certain parts of it where they seem to be unrealistically drawn together at points, and I think that's intentional. None of it, some of it can feel weird in the moment, but then when you get to some of those reveals later on, it's like, oh, that's what that was. Okay.
I definitely got to a point where I trusted the author.
Yeah.
I'm just going to throw this out there. I'm just going to say this because I think it needs to be said. Also, the hottest prince of any of these. Like, I am legitimately attracted to this man. Like, his chest is impossibly huge, and I love it. And he's... Shut up, Shy. I've been sending my wife screenshots of this comic where, like, she'll occasionally come in and she'll look over my shoulder while I'm reading it, and she's like, keep scrolling. But yeah, it's I don't know, like, this prince just has such like a Shy's shouting he's perfect. He has such like daddy energy. I don't know how else to describe it. And that is something I didn't know I needed in these. I'm really rooting for it. Like, when because he's seductive. Like, that's another thing we don't see.
Oh, very I think the word would be smoldering.
Yes. But no, like, genuinely, they're like, he seduces her, and that is like not something that is convincingly done in a lot of these comics. It's usually just like, oh, here walks in this impossibly well-dressed, impossibly handsome man. Swoon. Right. But in this one, he is that and more.
Yeah. And it always, in a lot of these series, they sort of make it a point with the strong female leads where they'll go like, yeah, he's super hot, but like, I don't care about that. And like, is he a good guy? And, go from there. Where, realistically, someone that attractive who's paying attention to you, who is hinting at, potentially liking you in more than just a, outwardly social way, anyone, male or female, would be like, oh yeah, okay, let's see where this goes.
Yeah. And I do like that they establish him as a playboy, and so like, he's obviously, she's not ugly, so she's obviously up for grabs.
Yeah. And
she has to resist that, but like, slowly she stops resisting it, especially as he starts showing genuine concern for her and risking his political position.
And I think there's a point where they sort of go over the line, and she's still sort of got that monologue going on of going, this is just for show. Like we're tricking everybody, even though like she actually, even deeper down, is like, I think this is what I want.
Well, and now she has eventually this is obviously going to get into the complexity of, now I tell you I've been lying to you the whole time. I'm actually blonde lady. But
which I think is, I think they set it up this way, so I don't think people will be surprised, but I think he's going to be distraught about that, but not in a I can't believe you lied to me way.
Yeah. Well, and that's why I said there's a complexity there with she looks like her old self, which she's both. I mean, she's both the blonde girl and the dark-haired girl. And that's a shallow way to describe it, but that's how they visually delineate the new life and the old life and the disguise. And so it's going to be interesting. I think there's definitely a little bit of like he needs to become emperor. He has a convincing backstory himself. So they both have these compelling stories that are kind of colliding and meshing in a way that makes the story a little richer for it.
Yeah.
Because he has goals that are noble, that you want to root for. And
But
she
then
doesn't even know that.
You also, I mean, at least myself, I'm sort of going, well, I don't want him to be emperor. Like he loves his brother so much, and like
that is a tricky
there
one.
doesn't seem to be anything about the brother so far that makes me go, oh, he shouldn't be the emperor.
I actually really liked that because they do set up a political struggle. There's two siblings that are set up basically from birth to fight for the throne. Because
they reject that.
Yeah, and the two of them seem to be working together to some greater end, but also there's a doubt cast on the intentions of the older brother, but it's not a strong enough doubt. It could be something else. There's a lot of, all of the intrigue starts off very anime with, this is happening because it must happen, because it's written in the script that this happens. And obviously I know this because in my past I learned it off screen and I've been a skilled whatever for my entire life. There's a little bit of that.
You already said it was an isekai.
Yeah, but they quickly get over it. I think they need to do a little bit of it just to jumpstart the story. And I think that's always been the case with isekais, is that's a way to jump in without maybe more subtly explaining how the worlds work. Like it's a cheat way of world building.
Yeah, it's a shortcut to get to the meaty bits.
Yeah. And so they do kind of info dump on you, but they keep it light and funny. And then once you've got all the stuff you need to understand where they go, I was able to actually deduce twists and turns in the plot. I was able to figure out certain characters were suspicious and certain characters were going to be at odds, and I don't often get that because it's usually so contrived.
See, I'm really glad that you picked up on that, because I, especially at the beginning, like I said, when I first started reading it, I was really confused about a lot of stuff. I glossed over lots of things. There was something that was very compelling to me about it, so I kept going with it, but I wasn't really hooked into it, and it wasn't until some of the reveals later on, like some of the first ones, where I was really like, oh, I'm really into this. This is really cool. And one of the reveals very recently, where they actually explicitly said something, and I was like, oh, okay. I didn't pick up on that. And then when we were talking the other day and you said, oh yeah, this person seems really suspicious. And I was like, what? You picked up on that? That's crazy. So I'm really happy about that there is something there, because it feels like it's right. It feels like they give
Yeah.
you the right information, but for whatever reason, I don't know if it's my attention span or just, wasn't reading them on good days or whatever, but like
You
I
read
didn't pick up.
600 of these and they all
Well, there is that.
get mashed together.
But there's a lot of stuff that I didn't pick up on that I felt like maybe if I had been more critical, I would have. And it seems like that's the case since you did pick up. So
Yeah. Well, and the other thing I like is that the ghosts which torture her, they each start getting their own little backstories.
Yeah.
And it actually put a smile on my face when she helps some of the ghosts. Like, and she doesn't even do anything big. And I love that it's not big. Like, she'll just give the one lady who loves gossiping, who loves knowing everything. She helps Rosentine do something, and Rosentine gives her a little bit of credit, and all the other ghosts are like, "Oh shit, she actually did something." And that lady's like, "Yeah, I'm great. Give me the attention I've craved for so long." And that actually made me smile because then they're like bros for life, and I love that. I like that. I like the reward. I like that people are not just seeing her and going, "Oh, she's so sweet and nice. I want to help her." I like that she earns their trust, that their trust is rewarded. It's just, and I know this may seem like the basics of storytelling, but I go into some of these with low expectations. and the fact that there is consistently good setup and payoff, I can't tell you how refreshing that is.
Well, I would hope that the ones that I'm specifically recommending to you,
These have
might
all been
have
good.
a bit higher.
This guided tour of villainous manhwa has been has been good.
I mean,
But
you've seen some of the bottom ones, so I feel
Yes.
like
Yes.
your expectations should be a little bit higher.
No, I would definitely recommend checking out Secret Lady. If you are into this at all, I think this is a good one, if only for that prince.
Well, and so there's another aspect of this. We've been talking a lot about the story, which is obviously, the important part. But as a visual story in as a manhwa, the art in this is probably, I don't know if I'd say the most unique, but definitely very unique and like very well executed. And
I have
like
praise and I have criticisms.
Yeah, it's got like this very artistic style to it. So to just get it out there right now, some of the character models are a little weird sometimes.
I think a lot of this is hand drawn,
Yeah.
which is good. And I will get, you know what, just for drawing it and not copy and pasting, you've already increased. That's an automatic 3 out of 10. So everything is good. People are very wide.
Yeah.
Everyone is very wide in this. And I don't know if that is partly like the cell phone thing but if you view, especially the maids, because the maids all wear a headscarf, which is good. You don't often see in a lot of these European medieval things, people wearing hats. Everybody wore hats back then. So I like that. The headscarf is a good choice. The weird choice is that everybody looks like a dude in a dress. If you're a woman in this and you are not a main character, you look like a dude in a dress. Your neck is thick, like 6 inches thick. You got these giant linebacker shoulders. And on one hand, I kind of like it because, yeah, the working class people would be well muscled. And in medieval times, that was a sign of low class to not be a little plump. But yeah, it gets weird. It gets to the point where like every shot of a maid from behind really just looks like a dude in a dress.
But beyond the character models,
The side characters are meh. The main characters are all very well rendered. And
right? And you did touch on that earlier. The princes are just like just chiseled and like
So Prince, what? How do you pronounce it?
Chartreuse.
Charteris. Chartreuse. Prince Chartres is, if he existed in real life, would weigh upwards of 500 pounds.
I don't know about that. Maybe
He is like
350.
he is like 7 feet tall, and his chest is like more than a barrel.
I think he's probably like 6'4", 6'5", but everyone else is shorter.
He is huge.
But yeah, if he's he. I can see him being like 6'5", 350, just pure muscle. Yeah.
There's a couple of shots, and I understand like the webcomic schedule probably. There's a couple of shots where like he takes his shirt off, and it is hot. Don't get me wrong, but some of the shots where he's like out of frame or moving or something, they're rendered a little more quickly, and the proportions are way off. Whenever he's in close up, they render him with like shoujo manga precision. He's got every lock of hair is perfectly rendered, and it's all smoky and bubbly. And
Yeah, and most of them do this where most series do this where you'll get these like, I guess you would call them hero shots, where it's either the female lead is wearing a new dress, and so they just give you a full view. There's no dialogue or anything. It's just like the picture of here she is in her dress, or the lead, and something similar, especially when they take their shirts off. And they always put a lot of effort into those. But I think the thing that really grabbed me, because as we've said, the character modeling can be a little weird, but they do this really cool thing where they will go into this like stylized sort of faux panel kind of thing, either like for flashbacks or if there's something dramatic going on or whatever, where they'll like skew things and the colors will be a bit distorted, and like you'll get these weird angles of viewing things.
yeah,
and,
it's
like,
very cinematic, like Dutch angle for a moment that's off kilter or uncomfortable.
Yeah.
One thing I did notice, and they all the manhwa comics do this, but this one used it, I think, more effectively than some. They have normally a word bubble is obviously white background, black text. This makes a good use of whenever somebody is saying something heavy or creepy, or you want that like JoJo go moment, they gradient the background of the word bubbles, and the text and the color of the word bubbles start to shift and invert into like black on like white on black background. And they do that for dark emotional beats. They also do that for like you said, flashbacks or uncomfortable memories, and it almost adds like a sound effect. And I know that's a thing that everybody does now, but it always seems cheesy in some of the other one. I shouldn't say always in some, but it often seems cheesy. But in this one, I feel like, again, the writing combines with the art to create a moment where you're not just trying to take a sloppily written or sloppily translated line and make it impactful by coloring it, like by telling the audience to please clap by setting it in a different color. You're actually using that to an effect of dropping the tone.
Yeah.
I like that.
So yeah, I was I think I'd have to say the main reason I kept reading it very early on, because as I said, there's a point where something with the story just clicked for me. But I think very early on, I was like, okay, I'm going to push through this because of the style of it. That it was so stylized in a way that I haven't seen in other series. that I was like, there's something going on here. There's something interesting. And I'm
Yeah. They also do the cartoony cuts and
oh yeah,
reaction.
will it be like Chibi or whatever?
Yeah,
And
they
then
do
it's
the
just like,
reaction faces that Kermit loves so much.
yeah. There's not as much of those, but yeah, from time to time, yeah, you have that where it's like, what did you just say, kind of thing.
Yeah, I think what keeps it for me is the writing. I think it didn't go where I thought it would go from the first couple chapters. And I don't think this is a significant spoiler to say. In the first couple chapters, she has to like exorcise a demon. And there's one ghost that helps her exorcise the demon. And I thought this was going to become a thing of like her teaming up with this ghost, maybe even falling in love with that ghost, because they were kind of setting it up like he was going to be this big thing, and he is a big thing, but it went in a totally different direction than I thought it would go. And I think that would have hooked me from the beginning because I read so many books, I read so many comics, I watch so much anime that a lot of these I could write from the first scene. I could just tell you everything that's going to happen. And I thought this was going to be one. I was like, oh, she's got her ghost boyfriend, and then like I don't know, he's going to become real somehow or something. And like, nope, that's not where it goes. And the ability to surprise me in a way that is consistent with the story, not just the old Ryan Johnson subverting my expectations, even though I like his recent movies. Yeah, I can't praise the writing enough. Really, I think the artist does good work, but I think it's also they got a good assignment.
Yeah.
There's a lot to work with here, and I'd have to read the novel to really say how much credit should go to the artist, but some of the choices of like making her visually identical, setting up themes that only occur visually that I don't know how they would do in the book. I think that is the mark of a good adaptation as well. And again, I'm kind of talking a little bit out of my butt on that one because I haven't read the book, but
Yeah.
it seems like it's a faithful and adds something.
Well, I think that'll probably cover it, unless you have anything else. Any closing thoughts on that?
No, just that the artist's name is Banana. I remember that.
Oh, yeah, you're right. Interesting.
And I just noticed that on the cover of every single one. It's like banana.
All right, so let's rate this.
Let's rate it.
So, after our discussion, do you have a guess on what my rating would be?
I would guess this is an 8 out of 10 for you.
Interesting. So, if we had done this in the first 40 chapters, I'd say, yes, it would have been an 8. However, I am getting more and more into this as it goes on.
Okay, good. I was going to say, if you're going down on this, I was going to be like, well, you're wrong. It is, in fact.
So I am, in fact, going to rate this as a 9. So, not my favorite, but certainly right up there.
I'm going to rate it an 8 with potential for a 9 because I do agree. If what they're doing pays off, it will be a 9. I'm still, it is a webcomic. I'm still hedging my bets. I will say this is one of the few that I remember most of the characters' names. I have thought about it after I stopped reading it. I will even tell you this is one of the few where like I bookmarked this. I didn't just throw it in my podcast bookmarks. I actually put this in my like regular rotation bookmarks.
Nice.
So I want to see where this goes.
So you're not going to make an account and actually like follow.
Does
Can't
that
bring
help?
yourself to do that yet.
Does that
I
help
mean,
anybody?
that's how I read them. Just go on the site. Now for you, it'd probably be every couple days, but I go on there, 3 or 4 times a day and see what the latest chapters are that came out.
I suppose maybe it is about time I make an account.
I would say if you're at like 3 that you are reading regularly, that's probably enough.
Yeah,
It is
I gotta
free.
catch up on a few. Yeah.
All right, so highly rated, definitely a recommend.
Yes.
If you're into romance, if you're into mysteries, if you're into a bit of the occult.
Charming occult for the most part. There is a little bit of genuine horror, but for the most part, it's charming.
Yeah. There's not really a whole lot in here that's like, oh my god, this is like a horror movie kind of thing. But
I was worried it was going to be like The Sixth Sense, but no, it's more like Ghost Dad.
so you see why I have this at the top of the list?
I see why you have it at the top of the list for me. I don't want to think it's only downhill from here.
It should
Worried
not
about
be.
that.
It
Okay.
should not be. Everyone that's on the list, I think you will enjoy.
Yeah.
To what level, who knows? But
So
should.
far, this is more different than I was expecting. Like this is more mystery than isekai, and
yeah,
I like that. I like that we're getting some differentiation, and I worry because when you tell me you read 600 of these things, I'm like, well,
that just means that I can pull out all the cream
how
of the
many
crop,
do you
right?
need? But no, I wouldn't think of myself as being necessarily into mystery, but when you care about the characters involved in the mystery, I think
Yeah.
it makes it more engaging and more intense. And I would go so far as to say kids these days might have better webcomics than we did.
I don't think that's wrong to say. It is wrong to say that they're their webcomics. Because we can read them just fine. We're stealing your shit, kids.
Two bearded men reading your Korean romance comics.
All right. Well, we did not have anybody reach out to us to give us any recommendations. So let's pick the next one that people can read along with us.
This podcast has the shyest audience.
Let's see here. What do I want to recommend? I mean, these are all good.
Does anything tackle a genre we haven't looked at before?
I mean, they're all romance. At the end
I get
of the
I
day,
get that,
so-
but like, does anything have a flavor like the mystery flavor or the like a comedy flavor? Or...
Oh, let's see. Beware the Villainous is sort of a comedy. I don't think it's that funny though. How to Get My Husband on My Side is super depressing.
Oh,
If you're into that.
a lot of these titles are catching my eye, but I don't know if that's a good way to do it.
The Villainous flips the script. I actually recommended that one for Kermit to read a while back. I can't remember if we talked about that on the podcast, but that's more of basically just a straight romance kind of thing. But the romance doesn't really kick in even at this point. We're a couple chapters into season 2, and there's like the hint of romance, but it's more just sort of like political drama kind of stuff, family drama things going on. I like it a lot. But I'm struggling to like pick out the thing that that is like, oh, this is why we should read it. Oh, villains are destined to die. That one is interesting. Maybe I'll recommend that one because it is it's an isekai and the protagonist is in a Otomo game on hard mode, and the fact that she's in a game is pretty, like, they don't just drop that early on or sort of forget about it. It's a central plot point basically the whole time. It's a drama. It is very much a drama. There's not a whole lot of fun going on in there.
I'm looking at the art. This is very webcomic, at least to start. I'm interested. We can do this one.
All right. Villains are destined to die. So if anybody wants to read along with us, go ahead and check that out.
Have you ever read one of these to completion? Have any of them ever ended?
Yeah, I have a list of ones that are over at this point. So,
okay.
Let me see if there's any on this list that are over.
How many of these do we do before we do a revisit episode?
There's a lot on this list, so probably a while. So Beware the Villainous, which is one of the ones at the top, is actually over. It's not 100% over. They're doing like the special episodes at the end that they always do, where it's like, oh, we have to show them having children and all that. But that one is technically over. So, all right, yeah. So like I said, beware. Villains are destined to die. Check that out. You can read along with us and let us know what your thoughts are after the next episode. But let us know what your thoughts are on Secret Lady. You can let us know what you think, and if you want to recommend a series, we are open to reading things that other people suggest.
No, seriously, this is. I always ask for engagement, and I always appreciate engagement. But when it comes to the manhwa, I have no frame of reference, no friends other than Isekai Sensei who are into this. So I would love to hear more about this community, because this all fascinates me, that this has been going and going strong for so long, and I did not get into it until we read it for this podcast.
Yeah. Be sure to check out our regular podcast, That Time I Got Reincarnated in the Same World as an Anime Podcaster. We just did our 12th episode, which not quite a year, but basically a year. And we explored our origin stories.
Have you noticed since we recorded that episode that there's been any like mysterious, like weird Japanese mini trucks following you?
Well, I'm not going to get into it right now, but there was an incident. But we'll talk about that more.
I've seen more of them on the road than I ever have before.
So check out our website, animepodcasterreincarnation.com. You can leave comments there. The podcast episodes are up there, so you can leave comments on those. And we also have other blog posts and stuff. Ben has written a couple reviews. And Kermit has also written some reviews up there, so check those out. We also have a Patreon now. If you want to, give us a couple dollars and say, hey, I like what you're doing. And that you can find links to that on all of our various platforms, or you can search on Patreon for Anime Podcaster Reincarnation. And if you just want to reach out directly to Ben or me, I'm on Twitter at Isekai Sensei, and Ben is at BenboSwaggins. You can also email us, isekaisenseisama@gmail.com. And then we also have our YouTube, which is That Time I Got Reincarnated as an Anime Podcaster. So, yeah. Let us know what you think. Rate us. We always appreciate a rating on whatever podcast platform you're listening to us on. And if you can't get enough of Ben talking about reading stuff, be sure to check out Words About Books.
I read
As
Dracula. It's very
yeah.
much the Korean webcomic of Victorian England.
Horror Bullshit Month is now over, but it was a horrifying month. So just go back and check that out. So that's it. So now, if you'll excuse me, I've got some bumps of monologue I gotta go hit. Rosentine.
I think either's fine. I think that's like a colloquial. Tine-teen. That's how. What part of Pennsylvania are you from?
Rosentine Arzen. Rosentine. I think Rosentine sounds right.
I think Rosentine Arzen drinks soda and Rosentine Arzen drinks pop.